are Coastal Reefsilience, the world's first coral reef insurance brokerage. And so we're going to go ahead and take you through our journey.
And we're going to save our video for the end because it is a really fun treat. We took Make It Funny very seriously, Anne, so hopefully you're proud. Okay, so our journey. We kind of look at it as chapters, right? So we started out with what are we doing? We had kind of an innovation station that we were thinking, okay, this could work, this could work. I think we got a little lost in our own heads at a few times. We hit a very big grown zone with some team turmoil, which is part of any team's journey, kind of through working in teams is difficult sometimes. But we kept trucking along. We definitely experienced some burnout. And we were like, I don't know, haven't we already thought about this? Haven't we already gone through this idea? But I think we kind of pushed through that and started to really take form into an idea that I think we're both really excited about. And so, as you'll see, as we go throughout these chapters, the end of it, I think we can actually maybe do something with this, which is really exciting. And I think also representative of what the Hacking for Oceans course is meant to be. So yeah, let's get started.
So in our first chapter here, so like Austin said at the very beginning, we were just trying to figure out what exactly we were going to do, right? And so the questions that we were faced to tackle were, can reef restoration be designed to save coastal communities and protect them from floods and reduce general risks and provide value in that sense through coral restoration? And so we started off with our initial hypothesis that was that restoration for resilience is simply just limited by the current restoration methods. And if a technically and economically feasible solution was available, restoration for resilience projects would be implemented. So we started off with more of kind of a physical idea. And so Austin will get more into that.
Yeah, and so throughout our presentation, we had a few quotes that I think aren't direct quotes maybe from us. We probably definitely said throughout, but kind of just to put you in what our mindset was maybe as we go throughout the journey. So our chapter 2 is just keep swimming. So we're trying to figure out, can we come up with just a structure made of some sort of hybrid material that brings in physical barrier and attracts corals and people can plant corals on it, and maybe we can just scale that up, right? And if there was that structure, then it'll protect coastlines and protect people from storms, and restore coral, which is what the name of the game is all about, which led us to kind of this first MVP that you may recognize from my doodles throughout the course. Can we increase coastal livelihood and happiness while also creating a shorter time period for this restoration to take place? And we'll also highlight throughout the presentation the names of some of the groups that we talked to in our interview tally throughout the corner. You can start to see it tack up throughout the presentation. So we kept on going with this idea as we moved through our journey.
And so for week 3, we got a new teammate, and we also were looking at hybrid methods for scaling up coral restoration. So kind of along the similar vein, we were kind of working with that idea of seeing if we could integrate green and gray structures to be used in restoration, because the idea was that if we simply just used one or the other, we would be losing out on the benefits of one or the other. Essentially, if we just had coral planting, it wouldn't provide that protection in a quick enough time frame. But obviously, if it was just gray infrastructure, that's not helping anyone as far as restoration goes. And so trying to figure out if there was a way to combine both of them, that was kind of where we were at week 3. And at the end of the week, after we had talked to some people, we kind of realized that this might not be the place where the reef restoration industry is. This wasn't exactly the product that was needed at this time. This isn't where they were at. And so we made a pivot that maybe our product doesn't need to be a physical object, because it kind of became clear there wasn't the manpower necessarily to implement a object like this. And our solution may have to be more along the kind of policy financing realm. And we also realized we needed to talk to more people. So, yep.
So in opening up the possibilities for what our solution could be, I think we also, are really good at overthinking things as scientists. Adele and I both just like, put up roadblocks for ourselves constantly. And as we entered week 4, we also encountered some team stressors. And I think this also kind of maybe took us on a path that didn't support our focus in our project. And so we talked to people. We didn't have the most productive interviews in this week. And we got a little bogged down in the fact that there are a lot of moving pieces and players in the coral restoration field right now. But who's a beneficiary in the field? Are we benefiting restoration practitioners, or are we trying to benefit coastal communities? Are we trying to benefit governments? We really needed to figure this out. I think our team was a slow burn, which sometimes is a good thing, right? We're getting through all this muck and maybe getting to something beautiful at the end. And we wanted to make sure that our team could find a way to work parallel with the already really cool work going on. There are people doing amazing things with land-based facilities in coral restoration. There are people doing amazing things with scaling up genetics in coral restoration, maybe not at a big enough scale, which is always something in the back of our mind, right? Coral restoration just isn't exploding as it needs to be. And as we talk to people, thinking about a financing solution, we got even more into the muck and thinking there's not a one size fits all. So maybe this problem is going to be a lot more complicated than like we were hoping it would be, which is true for literally anything that you encounter. So then as we went into the next week, we're thinking, okay, well, if we can't find a like knockout solution for a financing, then what is the limiting factor that's stopping restoration from scaling up? And so we made a major pivot into week 5, coming out of all of this kind of like our lowest point of the course. And you'll see in our next week kind of where we pivoted.
Yeah, so from all of our interviews in the previous week kind of went along a similar theme, that a lot of people were saying that there just weren't enough people. And so they were really just being like, yeah, I mean, we just don't have enough people to do the work. That's really it. Like, if we just had more people, then we could probably figure out how to like implant more corals. So we kind of were like, okay, I guess maybe that seems to be the limiting factor here in this industry. And so the obvious solution to if the only thing missing is the amount of people, then maybe we're like, okay, let's make a trade school then, right? Let's get a place where we can train a bunch of people, and so that they can go out and help these organizations do that work, right? And so at this point, we were seeking to establish a continuous flow of skilled coral reef restoration technicians to support these organizations. And building on that, we wanted to create a career pathway, with the idea that if we build this trade school, there will be people that will want to participate in it. At the end of this week, we had a really good interview with our mentor, Bernie, and he pointed out some really important things to us that I think both Austin and I kind of maybe had in the back of our minds. I think we were both a little bit like, this seems like, I guess this would be a good solution, but I don't really, it felt a little weird. And so Bernie said to us a really good analogy that I think really helped Austin and I, was that if being like a janitor or something like that paid $1 million, you would have tons of janitors. And that kind of was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's almost never really about the people necessarily. And in this type of work, it's about the money. If you can pay them, then they'll be there. And we were both kind of thinking like, yeah, there's a lot of people that are wanting to work in marine conservation, that kind of sector. So it seemed like, so we kind of repivoted then back to okay, money really is the pinch point if people are just asking from people. And a good quote that Bernie said was, you don't want to be the next Trump University. You don't want to be a place that trains people and then they have nowhere to go, right? So that is another thing that made us realize that this was probably not the best idea.
So moving forward as our dynamic duo, we said, well, where is the money? And I will admit, I probably brought some bias into this with my capstone work. And I said, well, I know FEMA has money and they want to invest in coral reefs as natural infrastructure. So how can we take that and move that idea forward? Through this week, we also had a makeover. We renamed our team. I think it was really refreshing to kind of just like reset, come up with a name that we really thought sat with us really well and fit with what we were trying to do moving forward. And in this week, we moved into how do we get more money into restoration work, right? Because when people see money, it opens the industry. And so we're starting an industry that is, not at the scale it needs to be, but money can scale it. And we're saying, okay, well, the money's in FEMA, then what is missing for them to give the restoration field money? And the thing we came down to was proof. So what if we provided the proof to them that they would then be like, okay, here's your money, in a very simple way, right? And so we thought, let's establish a network of demo sites that can prove to risk management agencies, starting with FEMA, that coral restoration for hazard mitigation works. And in thinking about this idea, I think, and talking with the teaching team was really helpful to think, is that our product? Like, is that where we want to place ourselves in this journey or in this process? Maybe other people are already doing this work, or we should just work on the assumption that this work will already get done. And so where can we insert ourselves, as the industry opens up? Let's start working off the assumption that some of those little details that maybe can like serve as roadblocks to us as scientists, let's just work on the assumption that they're going to get done, which puts you in a really uncomfortable place sometimes, right? But I think it's something Adele and I learned through the course, that sometimes you just have to work in the uncomfortable space to get to something that might work. So
Yeah, and something that I'll add to that as well is, and some of the interviews that we had with people, I remember them saying things along the line of, oh yeah, we just are starting to get demo sites put out. We're just starting to do this work. So right as
I can't hear you. Adele, you can't hear you. Your speaker's gone.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. But I was just saying that within some of these interviews that we were having, we were talking to people, they were saying, oh yeah, we're getting ready to put demo sites in. We're on track to do this. We just got funding or something to put a demo site in here. So we're like kind of realizing that this is like happening right now. Like this work is being done right now. And we did find an important thing. It's just there are people doing it right now. And the reason we didn't really know about it is because you would only really know about it if you talk to those people about it. It's like not published yet. It's not public. It hasn't quite been done yet, but it's in the works. So that's another thing. And so then we went ahead and pivoted again away from the demo site idea after those realizations. And we decided that Coastal Reefsilience was going to seek to establish a coral reef insurance fund to support the advancement of the coral restoration industry. So we were saying that if we invest in nature, we invest in coastal communities' ability to recover faster after disasters. And so we wanted to show industry decision makers that coral reefs are, as a natural infrastructure, are a better investment than gray infrastructure. And so we were kind of sitting with all of this information and realizing, okay, but what does all this mean? So we again kind of had to go back to the drawing board and really refine this idea that we had.
So we were like, well, let's take something and run with it. I think Steve told us to do that a couple times throughout this course. And we thought, well, let's look into impact investing, right? This is kind of a new field in the conservation world. So could we utilize impact investing to conserve and restore coral reefs? So we were thinking that as Coral Reefsilience, we could put investors' money into the hands of the smartest people working in the coral restoration world. And, you know, the idea behind this, which Craig highlighted in a really great meeting, teaching us to non-economists about the investment world, is that, you know, we need additional sources of capital beyond government grants to solve the coral reef problem. Something that we heard throughout the interviews of the people we were talking to was that they're limited in scale by the time constraints put on them by the money they're getting through government grants. And so how can we eliminate that pain point of, you know, not being able to scale up because you have to provide deliverables within 2 years because of who's providing you the funding. And so we were thinking, okay, well, we can get money and put it into the coral restoration world, but how many groups are doing coral restoration, which I think the teaching team highlighted to us. How many people are doing coral restoration? And maybe this is like too narrow, right? Maybe we're starting too broad, now we're starting to get a little too narrow. So maybe we can do more than just collect investors and collect money for the coral restoration world.
And so with that that idea in our head, we came to the
Can't hear you again, Adele. You keep moving your speed.
sorry. I was saying that we found our way back to insurance. We had kind of heard this idea many times throughout the quarter, but we didn't quite think that it was maybe the right fit necessarily. We had heard about kind of like the Mexico insurance project, but we didn't know. And so after kind of working our way through other solutions, we realized that insurance actually might be a plausible solution for us. And we realized that so at this moment in time, there's no one-stop shop or format to determine eligibility and policy structure for coral reef insurance. So there just needs the data to inform eligibility and risk is available. It's out there, right? It's published, but there aren't any policies that have been developed on it, or that data hasn't really been integrated into the form where it can be used to create policies. And so that we decided that that would be our product, right? Is helping to create these policies and so that people who want to insure their coral reefs, right? Like different dive shops or just different communities and such, or hotels even, could insure their coral reefs and use our product, our algorithm, in order to do so. And so the Coastal Reefsilience Insurance Portal, which would be our product, informs customers of their eligibility for coral reef insurance and offers them a variety of quotes from insurance companies on what it looks like for them to insure reefs. And a couple quotes from interviews that we had this week were that insurance industries are starting to care a lot about climate change. And so that's really been a theme also throughout this project, is people are getting interested in this. People are really starting to realize that coral reefs are important, not just because they're pretty, but because they actually have ecosystem services and benefits, right? And so the insurance would be working off of people's kind of realization of that. And so the reason that there isn't a parametric insurance in the reef industry is that there's just a lot of upfront work that needs to be done in order to create insurance for reefs, right? And no one's done it yet. And so that's where we come in.
Yeah, so as we're moving forward, I had a great meeting. You know, this ties into my capstone project as well. So I was able to finally corner Mike during my capstone meeting and ask them about this. And I showed them our presentation that Adele and I had given last week. And both Mike and Tamaki were really intrigued by it. And, you know, Mike emphasized that creating a solution in the insurance space is super cool because it'll have to be creative, innovative, but challenging. But I think through this journey, we are ready to take on that challenge. And something that he also mentioned is that, we can insure the reef as a natural resource in order to open up the industry to more buyers, and get money into reef conservation and reef restoration. That doesn't necessarily have to tie into their ability to reduce risk from flooding. It ties into their ability, or it ties into the risk that faces reefs due to risks from climate change. And so I think moving forward with that idea is a really cool next step. And yeah, I think throughout this process, our fatal flaw was that we were making assumptions off of too few interviews with the same types of people. And I think that can be seen in kind of our journey of spirals back to one point, back to another. Maybe we weren't asking the right questions, but I think we learned that we're kind of getting to a point where we know what we want to ask people and what information we want to get out of people and who we need to talk to. And our shining star was that, between Adele and I think we were really able, we probably should have recorded the meetings we had between us each week, because we were able to just kind of talk in circles and then finally be like, okay, let's go this way. And I think we worked really well together in doing that and supporting each other. And just like, once we picked a thing, we really thought it through, and we were able to crumble it up and throw it in the bin if we needed to. And I think during a meeting with Craig at one point, he said, wow, you've really gotten to experience every aspect of developing a startup. And we're still at the beginning of this experience, but, we've gone through the ups and downs, and we're excited to move forward with kind of this cool insurance mechanism, which I'll show you in our next slide. And through the support of the Blackstone Launchpad Summer Fellowship, I think we're going to have some really, really exciting opportunities to learn from other entrepreneurs. So, our MVP is that we will find and secure natural resource insurance for your coral reef to protect against storm events, bleaching events, disease events, and other stressors. So something too to highlight is that through the process, I think Adele and I limited ourselves on the fact that, we're not economists and we're not engineers and we're not computer science people. But at the end of it, we were like, well, we could find people to do that, right? Like, let's just we have all the information. So let's just give someone the information and be like, help us, please help us make an algorithm. And so I think that really allowed us to take our next steps. And so this is our process, right? Is to create an insurance, mechanism that puts out policy options, and we can provide annual quotes to people interested in insuring their reef. And we can connect with the insurance agency to get them on board to insure those reefs as a natural resource. So we're really the middle party to communicate with both. And there's potential to have insurance policies for a variety of things and to have different tiers of including restoration in their policy, right? So we have a lot more interviews to conduct that we're gonna keep trucking through the summer doing. But I think starting here, which is probably where we could have started at the beginning, but maybe not, we had to go through the process and learn all that we learned. We can come up with something really exciting through the summer.
Yeah. Perfect.
Cool. Yeah, and just thank you to everyone who helped us along the way and put up with our confusion at times. And yeah, we had fun throughout the course. Hopefully you can see through our presentation.
Yeah. So yeah, as Austin was saying, here's a little startup curve. It really resonated with us. That we felt that the trajectory of this graph was similar to our progress. And so on exit. So Austin and I we made a video, and disclaimer, we definitely took the make it funny part very seriously. And
Good.
so yeah, it's lighthearted and fun.
I
Here, I'll
think,
go ahead and do it.
yeah, I think as all of you know, this year has been a tough year for everyone. And this course, at times, Adele and I had to laugh so that we didn't cry, because we went through some turmoil. And so we really just wanted to use the video as a treat for everyone. So we put ourselves on the line, and it's going to be really fun.
Yes.
Go for it.
We did a little parody to a song. I'm gonna go ahead and put the lyrics in the chat because our singing is not the best at times. So if you want to follow along, you can. It's not letting me copy and paste it into the chat, so I'm gonna go ahead and see. Ooh.
Can you?
Does anyone? I feel like I've copied and pasted into chats before, so
Yeah, usually it should work.
Might be too long.
maybe. Yeah, let me go ahead and
But-
see.
Maybe do it in 2 chats. First
Put it in a
Like,
Google Doc really quick.
I think I can maybe just do it in multiple bursts. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
See if you can figure out the song by the lyrics if you want.
And
Well, I'm
then,
waiting to see it in the video.
okay, there it is.
Okay,
Oh, here we go.
Oh, I love this.
this is great.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, you'll have to actually give it to us later in a Google Doc so we can more easily copy it.
Yeah.
I can download it, and it's very simple.
Perfect. Okay. Here you
Oh, okay. I love this already.
Course. Well, I know I'm gonna find a solution to this problem. When I interview, well, I know I'm gonna learn about the lean design method. When I email, well, I know I'm gonna email all these people that I kinda used to know. When we present, well, we need to know our stuff and outline all the things and games in detail. And we would work 500 hours, and we would work 500 more, just to be the team that starts real strong and then miles down right on the floor. Hey, what about this? What if we made a hybrid structure, a structure that protects the coast from storms and floods? Or we could train 1,000 people to do the work that needs to be done instead. We could pivot, we could install demo sites on coral reefs to unlock FEMA financing. Wait, that's not useful? How about instead we get the money from philanthropists and impact funds? And we would work 500 hours, and we would work 500 more. We would get a new teammate, and the next day be back to 2 once more. Coral reefs, storm protection, the lean design methodology leads us. Hey, what you want? Let's do this. Let's do what? Find a way to insure coral reefs instead. Think we got it? I think we found a good solution. We just need to talk to the right people now. And we would work 500 hours, and we would work 500 more. And it turns out that we would keep working through the summer and some more. Thank you, New York!
I love it.
Fantastic.
In this course, well, I know I'm gonna learn. You can read it.
What? It's gone now.
Then go.